behind closed doors, Willie D, I'm going to say, you big dummy, why would you pull a knife out and stab somebody just because they pushed you?
Willie D Live.
If I send my son to a track meet on a Saturday morning here in Texas, I don't expect him to come home in a body bag. On the flip side, if I send my son into a track meet, I don't expect to get a call from the jail a couple hours after he leave home telling me he done caught a murder charge. So we have to all agree that this is extraordinary. And I don't mean that in a good sense. I mean, this is unheard of. This is not normal. You see, and now we have to sit back and try to figure out, well, what happened? Okay, and when I go back to the facts of the case, Austin didn't have a gun. Austin didn't have a knife. Carmelo wasn't being stomped out. He wasn't being beaten unconscious. Okay, this was a teenage confrontation under a tent. This is a schoolyard fight and somebody popped up dead. You see, and see, I'm from a different generation, man. You run up on me, you gonna put hands on me, I'm gonna put hands on you. But I know well enough to know that even in some of the worst situations I've been in growing up in LA, man, if I'm in a circle, I'm in a circle. I'm gonna get my respect. Now, of course, I'm a grown man now and I have responsibilities, but I'm not gonna pull out a blade or a pistol just because I'm getting whooped on or because I'm scared. I'm gonna come from the shoulders. I'm gonna do what I gotta do to protect myself and I'm gonna get my respect. And God willing, I'm gonna make them realize don't ever mess with that dude again. But under no circumstances I'm not gonna pull out a knife and stab somebody, man. And see, here's the problem, Willie D. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a father. You see, and I understand there's a racial dynamic associated with this. I get that part, because see, if the situation was reversed, see, Willie D, if it was a 210-pound black boy,
we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, we might have been here, but it wouldn't be this controversial. I'm with you on that.
If the situation was reversed, we wouldn't even be here, because the first thing would have happened, they would have said, well, how did it start? What happened? Who started it? Oh, so you're trying to tell me if the 200-pound black boy had not approached the 150-pound white boy, that this would have never happened. He wouldn't be dead. So keep your hands to yourself. I'm in these comments all the time. I'm online all day, every day. And that's all I see when it comes to bullying and people putting their hands on people. Even when women put their hands on men, people collectively say, well, she shouldn't have hit him. She hit him first. And it don't matter what he did to her after that. They say, well, she hit him first. What do you think? What do you think was the most compelling argument for, or the effective argument for the defense that created some reasonable doubt?
I think the fact that he was sitting there minding his business the whole time, that they were able to prove that Austin Metcalf put hands on him first, that he was invited there by the friend who, denounced him as a friend. And that's another thing, and I don't want to get off on a tangent. Yeah. It seems to me, and I know they had 21 witnesses, I get that, or 20 witnesses, but it seems to me like people are trying to distance themselves from Carmelo Anthony. And the reason that they're trying to do that is because in that community, they all have to live there. Okay. The judges got to live there. The jury's got to live there. They got to go back into that very same community. And they don't want to be the jurors who acquitted this young man. And I'm only saying what I'm saying. Okay. People don't leave their biases at the courthouse door when they walk in. They still have their strongly held beliefs, which includes their religion, their race, their perspective on life. And that's why I go back to the fact that, had the roles been reversed, right? And you had a little white boy sitting there minding his business and some big black kid came and put hands on him. And they would say, well, where was he supposed to go? Out in the rainstorm? They would be, people be making excuses for him. All right. They'll be telling what does that boy say? The black kid, the guy up in Tennessee, they just saying he's imping out. You see what I'm saying? That's what they would have said. They would have made every excuse why this black boy deserved it. I get that. Okay. But that's not the scenario that we have here. You don't get the benefit of the doubt if you're a black person in America, and that has a lot to do with the racial caste system. And we can go into 400 or 500 years of history and science and religion and how it's been used to castigate black people in our image. I get that, okay? But in this particular situation, man, you know, and that goes to a larger thing that black people are often vilified for defending themselves. And I'm gonna say that, but that's just true. But the bottom line in this particular case, when we just sterilize this and we look at the law, when we just look at the law, where was the deadly force justified in this altercation?
If you were sitting on that jury, what would be the single biggest question you still want answered before reaching a verdict?
If I was sitting on the jury, I'm going to read the jury charges. I want to know, because if you don't tell me, well, what I really want to know is the difference between manslaughter and murder, because I'm gonna be hurt putting this boy in jail for 20 years. And if there's any way I can, manslaughter, is that available? But then when I look at the actual charge, I'm gonna say, well, where was the need for deadly force? And so you slide right back into murder.
Did either side make a mistake, in your opinion, that could have swayed the jury one way or the other? Did they make a mistake, a key mistake, something that was glaring?
I don't want to. Well, yeah, I would say the all-white jury, when the prosecutors struck the last 3 black school teachers on peremptory exceptions on the grounds that they were educators and they didn't want them involved, because what that does is it allows for an appeal of the conviction. And that doesn't mean that Carmelo Anthony won't get convicted. What it means is there's grounds for a new trial. That's what that means. But the Batson, it was too obvious. You have 3 jurors left and you strike all 3 for peremptory charge. That lets me know that you didn't want them there, even though you said it was for non-racial reasons. You said it was because they were educators and they might know something that, you know, that a normal member of the community wouldn't know. But it looks to me like it was a black issue. And so because of that, I would say that opens up grounds for appeal. And the defense preserved that right on the record. That's what I see. That was the glaring mistake on the prosecutor's part.
In all of your years in being a lawyer, have you, and watching your daddy try cases, have you ever seen a white person be judged by an all-black jury?
No, I haven't, man. That doesn't mean it's not happening.
I'm just saying, like, I just believe that, you know, if you look at history, if you look at history, throughout history, all white jurors have proven themselves mostly to be incapable of giving a black person a fair shot. You know, almost 100% of the time, they are going to ride for the white person, whether that white person is a victim or a defendant. They are going to, I'm
gonna have to push back. I'm gonna go ahead and finish. I'm gonna push back on you. Go ahead. I'm gonna push back.
Okay.
My dad and I had a case in Dallas, and it was an all-white jury. And our client, and I don't like criminal cases. Let me just tell y'all, everybody do not call me if you've been involved in a criminal matter. I don't like them. I have a disdain for them, largely because I watched my dad go in and out of court for years. And I just don't like the cases. I don't want to deal with it. And I just don't like dealing with the criminal justice system, whether it's the defendant or the prosecutor, because I already know if I'm a prosecutor, I'm gonna try to put everybody in prison. And if I'm a defendant, I'm not gonna like the fact that I have to defend people that I don't like. I'm just saying, and I know everybody has a right to a defense. I get that. But my dad and I had an all-white jury in Dallas, and they acquitted our client. And it was some really horrendous issues. Basically, it was county court. Dallas has had to be probably 2006 or 2007. A gentleman had been accused of assaulting his former wife. So she came over to pick up her last alimony check, and he gave it to her and put it in her hand. And he said, the judge said that's the last one. So she kept banging on the door, throwing rocks at the door. So he opened up the door and said, hey, get away from here. And so what she ended up doing is trying to rush in. So he pushed her out, closed the door, and she immediately called the police on him, saying that he was the one who hit her and assaulted. And of course, if that happens, the police gonna just arrest you, put you in jail, and they'll let the judge sort it out. But we were able to prove with this all-white jury that our client was innocent. The ex-wife had ended up calling, trying to make an insurance claim and all sorts of stuff and recording. And, and so we were able to prove that. We had another case here in Harris County, and our client, who had other charges, in other words, they had just brought him from the back room. He was in jail already, but they said that he had done something to this other guy. It was assault, family violence. But, we were able to get the alleged victim's son to testify against the daddy on behalf of our client. And the jury said, well, we don't know what's going to happen, but the bottom line is, we were able to get an acquittal on that one. So those were two all-white juries in two different places in Texas. So you can get justice.
But those are probably the only two that happened that year.
I feel you, man. And I understand why, because of the relationship that Black people have with the criminal justice system here in the United States. I understand why we feel that way. But I've seen personally, not just with myself and with my father, but you have to. But if we just go, this ain't that case, man. In my opinion, this case with this Carmelo Anthony child, this ain't that case. This is a different case. Willie, look, man, let me share. You a daddy, I'm a daddy. Okay. What I'm gonna say to my children behind closed doors, if something like this happens, is not what I'm going to tell them in public. In public, I'm going to say, my son is innocent until proven guilty. I'm going to say he had a right to defend himself. I'm going to say all these different things. Behind closed doors, Willie D, I'm going to say, you big dummy, why would you pull a knife out and stab somebody just because they pushed you? Have you lost your mind? Are you crazy? This is what I'm going to say to my son behind closed doors. Behind closed doors, I'm going to say, bro, I'm going to tell you, look, you pull out a pistol, you pull out a knife to stab somebody because they push your goofy butt. Have you lost your mind? Now we got to pay for defense lawyers. You ruined your life, okay? Because you still gonna have this charge. If you ever do anything, if you happen to get off of this, anything you ever do in your life again, they gonna hold it against you. On top of that, you got a body. I'm raising you in the suburbs to be the best person you can be. You go to a track meet and you unalive somebody. We not in the hood no more. What got you so upset that you felt the need to whip out a pistol? You can't fight. You can't defend yourself. This is what you do. You just go straight from he pushed me to I'm stabbing somebody to death. Think about that, man. As a father, yeah.
As a father, respectfully, I have to say that I am going to err on the side of defending yourself by any means necessary. I got to think about my son being pushed around by some 225-pound kid. Now, if it's a kid about his size and he get pushed, man, fight the dude. But if you got this guy walking up to you in Frisco, in Frisco, Texas, okay, this is Frisco, Texas, where it's predominantly white and ruled by white folks. Everything is run by them. And you've seen already these cases of white people pushing black folks around, and you see it all day, every day on the internet. Now it's your turn. Now somebody then decided that they want to push my son around and they want to try him. This big guy come up to my son and push my son, and he got back up. My son is scared. If he pull out a knife and stick him, I'm going to stand with I'm not going to tell my, why'd you do that? Why? No, he feared for his life. If I fear for my life, that's why I wanted to tell you earlier when you was saying you would have just fought him. I'm going to tell you, if I fear for my life, man, look here, man, I'm going to defend it with everything I got. And yeah, I will stick you. I'll stick you. Let me tell you something, bro. I'll shoot you. I'll stick you. I'll hit you with a stick. I'll bite you. I'll claw. I'll kick you. I'll bow your head. I'll do anything I can to get you off me. And so, I wouldn't admonish my son for doing that. Like I would hate that he took those measures. He had to take that type of drastic measure. I'd hate that he had to take a life, and he got that on his mind. He got that on his record. I hate the fact that he's have to go through all of this stuff, and he putting us through it also. But I'd have to be understanding that he feared for his life. And if he feared for his life and he take a drastic measure like stabbing somebody, I'd have to be understanding of that.
And bro, I respect that, but that's why Carmelo's in prison right now. That's why you're gonna go to prison for 20 years.
I understand, but I understand exactly what you're saying. But at the same time, man, if we look at history of Black people defending themselves, a lot of these same arguments have been made throughout the years, and that is why our progress has been so slow. We are quick to not fight back, to not stand up for ourselves. And whereas other people, when they stand up for themselves and they fight, they typically get things to go their way. I do believe that Black people, one of the reasons why our progress has been so slow is because we always, well, not always, but, invariably, we just decide, oh, I'm scared. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail. But it's funny to me that we have no trepidation whatsoever about having that type of aggression towards each other. It's only when we're dealing with white folks primarily and others do we have that hesitation. And so my thing is that, man, I don't care who you is. I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what you do for a living. If I feel my life is in danger, I got to protect myself, and I would want my son to do the exact same thing.
Now, Willie, I'm gonna push back a little bit. We have defended ourselves. We've had the deacons of defense back in the 1960s over in Louisiana.
I'm talking about respectfully. I'm talking about to where as defending ourselves is code. Defending ourselves is automatic, and I mean all of us. It's automatic that we defend ourselves. It's automatic that if you put your hands on one of them, it's going to be hell to pay the captain every single time. Not every now and then.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with us defending ourselves, but what I do have a problem is bringing a knife to a fist fight, and that's the crux of my argument. At what point do we say, hey, look, you can't bring extraordinary force to an ordinary altercation? You just can't do it. Because that's out of pocket.
I agree with that, but how does he know that it's just going to be a regular fist fight when he's surrounded by these other guys? When this guy is so much bigger than him, ain't nobody finna just sit there and if they got a weapon, ain't nobody gonna sit there and just let somebody beat them down if they got a weapon. I ain't gonna let nobody beat me down. I ain't gonna let no big ass dude beat me down.
I get that, but all he did was push him at that point. It was just a push.
It was a forcible push.
It was a forcible push. He picked him up and jacked him up like a football player. Both of these boys play football. You telling me that Austin, that Carmelo Anthony never playing football? He never been pushed like that before?
This is one of the questions I would have wanted to know if I'm a juror. Why did Austin and his brother Hunter get suspended from school?
Because they were assholes.
Why were they suspended from school?
Because they were bullies and they weren't bullies.
Who else did they put hands on? See what I'm saying? From what I understand, they had a reputation for bullying. They had a reputation for being bullies.
Yes.
His brother Hunter is not innocent in all of this either. And I believe that's one of the reasons why he didn't take the stand.
I absolutely agree.
And his statements have been inconsistent.
Mm-hmm. Now let me phrase it like this. I absolutely agree that they had a reputation for being bullies. That's how the jury. How would you care if somebody else? What is the character of the deceased in what do you know him in the community? He has a reputation for being a bully. Okay, we can concede that. But the question still goes back to, was deadly force necessary in this altercation? Not in his past interactions, because he doesn't have a reputation of killing people in the past or pulling out knives. In this situation where he put hands on Carmelo Anthony, was it reasonable for him to believe that deadly force was being used against him, or force sufficient to cause serious bodily harm? My understanding, they didn't even know each other. So how could he say? And he didn't take the stand anyway, so we'll never know. He didn't come up there and testify as to his mindset. And I get why. You don't want to put your client up there if he may do harm under cross-examination to your case. But the bottom line is, we still got to go back to, was this level of response necessary? And I don't see it being there, and I don't think that the evidence is not saying it was there.
Well, how much weight do you think that juries put on witness credibility versus physical evidence?
Man, it depends. I've heard cases where this is why you never really know what a jury is going to do. And this is why people take a plea, because you never know. It's people who've been innocent, no physical evidence, all circumstantial evidence, and they still get a guilty plea. Then you got people, they got the bloody knife, a body, 3 kilos of dope, 2 guns, and they get acquittal. You see what I'm saying? So you never know what a jury of 12 is going to do. You just don't want to put yourself in that position, because you never know what a jury is going to do. You can hypothesize, you can theorize, you can kind of guess, but you don't know. There's a situation that happened in one of the local counties. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm not going to even mention the county, but I'll say near Houston. They let somebody who admitted essaying a child, the jury found him not guilty, because they said they didn't believe the cop. So, and you would think with a crime that heinous that they would say, nah, you going anyway. So you never really know. I think the whole situation is tragic. I don't like it. I don't like talking about it. The only reason I'm talking about it is because you asked me to talk about it, Willie D. You know the reason I'm here talking about it. But when I look at the situation, we got a lost life. We got more racial turmoil. We got a young black man whose life is on the line, and more likely that he gonna lose his youth, man. He's not gonna go to prom. He didn't go to prom. The boy probably never been with a woman. You see what I mean? He gonna be in there with them savages and animals for the next 20 years. You see what I mean? And you know how that is. I mean, we all heard the stories. You're gonna be in there and you're gonna get acclimated to that life, and you're gonna get out as you're gonna be 40 years old almost.